Tony Livesey
on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Well, it's just gone midnight. We're minutes into a new day. We've just come out of the day when B.B. King was born back in 1925. Bob Dylan began recording Blood on the Tracks in 1974. Critics would go on to rate it as one of the best albums of all time. And it was the day, yesterday that was, 8 minutes ago, that Davy Jones, as was, changed his name to become...
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade.
Yeah, and he didn't change his name to Major Tom. That's David Bowie, of course, changed to avoid confusion with Davy Jones of the Monkees, who just recently got together. All very interesting, but nothing to do with the theme of tonight's Midnight Musicology. Yes, if you're joining us for the first time, this is part of the show where we spend the next hour or so in the company of Dr. Beat, also known as Professor Joe Bennett, to his students at Berklee College of Music in Boston. When he's not teaching or doing music analysis for copyright court cases, he's walking us through the science, soul and stories behind the songs we love, always with a narrative arc as well, which is interesting, as we're going to find out tonight. Joe is here with us now. Joe, hello again. Hello.
Hey there, Tony. Great to be here again. Good to speak to you.
Yes, so we've got one of your quizzes coming up in a second, and we'll play that. Before we do that, and we have a Sounds Alike as well, suggested by a listener. Take us through tonight's theme. What are we going to be hearing tonight?
So tonight, Tony, we're going to be looking at instrumental hits. If you think of the top 10 Hot 100 in any era of music, you're most of the time going to hear a song with vocals where the title is in the chorus. That's the standard model for pop music that makes hits. But now and again, an instrumental just captures the public imagination. So we found a selection of instrumentals from the 50s to the present day, just to share some examples of big hits that are instrumentals, but also some slightly more obscure tracks to mix it up a bit.
Just as a general instrumental question, Joe, and you know, I don't know if you have any insight here really, but when in studios, when bands are putting songs together, might many songs be deemed, you know, first of all they think, oh, this will be is it a last resort, or do they set out to write an instrumental, or do they maybe think we can't find a lyric pattern for this, we'll just put the tune out? I don't know.
It's a great question. I mean, now and again you'll get a band that mostly has a singer that just puts out an instrumental. So top of my head, Laguna Sunrise by Black Sabbath. You know, Ozzy doesn't sing on that. It's a beautiful instrumental. But most of the time it's that the artist themselves is an instrumental artist. So, you know, you're playing Wipeout by the Surfaris, you know, a lot of their stuff is just twang guitar instrumentals. Yeah. So particularly with that surf rock craze of the early 60s that we're gonna look at, there are a lot of times when artists are known for being instrumental or having songs that are nearly completely instrumental.
Just before we move on, thank you to everyone who's let us know that when we said we didn't know what Cavatina was, it's of course the theme tune to The Deer Hunter.
Yes.
So we do know what it is.
A film I know quite well, actually. Yeah, I can't believe that.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Right, Joe, it's quiz time. Before you give us the clues, explain what you do on this and why we do it. You don't make it easy for us.
Well, with the quiz, I don't know about you, but if you do a pub quiz or whatever, I always hate that feeling where you don't know the answer and then the quizmaster reveals the answer and you go, oh, well, I didn't know it anyway. Yeah. So my quizzes are not like that. They're all pieces of music that you are likely to know or have come across. But where I do make it tricky, as you say, Tony, is I often disguise the music, and tonight is no exception, by playing the audio backwards.
Right.
That said, some of the early instrumentals, some of the real oldies, the 50s and 60s ones, I think they're so well known that I still think people will have a fighting chance.
So these are classic instrumentals you're about to play?
Yeah, these are really well-known songs by different generations.
Okay.
Well, songs is not the right word because you don't sing them, but really well-known records. Or as I now live in America, now an American citizen, I have to call them records.
Yeah.
Records.
Well, okay, you take it away then. Well, I've got my pen and paper.
Okay, so there are 5 questions. You get 1 point for the name of the track and 1 point, and I'm going to be strict here, for the correct name of the artist or band. Okay. So Number 1. This instrumental was released in 1959, and it was by a 4-piece band who were based in California. Here it is.
Got it.
Think that one? A lot of people might get that one. Okay. Number 2. This is I'm going to call them a studio session band. They're from Memphis, Tennessee, and this track came out in 1962.
Got it. I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
So, for number 3, this is an artist from, I'm just going to say US because this artist is so famous. But what I'm going to give you is the exact date. So this instrumental was performed as part of a live set, specifically on August 18th, 1969.
This is unprecedented. I've got 3 out of 3 so
got
far.
3 out of 3.
Rocking and rolling.
Okay. Well, I think you might find these a little more challenging, Tony, as we move closer to the present day. So this is number 4. This is an instrumental by a Canadian-American duo, and I'm looking for the name of the song and the artist. All you need to do is say that backwards and you'll get it.
Yeah.
So that was one of those say the title songs. And finally, this song was huge on the internet for reasons I will reveal later in 2013. It's an instrumental from 2013 by a solo producer.
No.
Okay, 5 questions.
Oh, I've got 4 and 5.
Have you?
Yeah. Sorry, I've just impromptu started to take.
This is Ryan, by the way. Joe Ryan, Ryan, Joe.
Am I
Hey,
right to-
Ryan. Good to hear your voice.
Joe, how's it going, man? You all right?
Good to have a young person on board. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and you've got 4, 5. We could be on for our own prize here.
That's the secret weapon. If you mix up the ages, because there's always something for younger folks and something for older folks.
We could win our own raffle here. If you think you've got the answers, and many of you usually do, 85058 or WhatsApp us 08085 909 693. We'll recap those later on and we'll play all the answers before we go at 1 o'clock. Right, let's get into the meat of the matter tonight. We're going to talk. I'm interested to know, Joe, when we get there as well, why you feel these songs are influential as well. Right, let's hear the first one. So influential instrumentals, and they're going to tell a story. So the first one is Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures. There we are. Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures. Why that one to kick us off then, Joe?
Well, because if you think of periods in history where there have been big gluts of instrumental hits, it's broadly speaking the 40s, the big band era, a little bit of the early 90s. Remember Acid House, all of those
Yeah.
instrumentals, those sort of EDM, as we now call it, club hits. And then this particular era, the approximately pre-Beatles surf rock twang craze that took over the USA in the early 60s and sort of petered out in the mid 60s. So Walk Don't Run is actually a very famous cover version. That, as you say, was the Ventures from 1960. That's the best known version. In fact, let me just play you a little bit of the original, which is from 1954. This is Johnny Smith, same melody, very different vibe. So as you can hear, it's a much more jazzy approach. Yeah. That's Johnny Smith there. But I think everyone knows and loves the Ventures one. So it starts with a little bit of music theory. This is a thing called Andalusian cadence, which is the sort of a lot of people know it as the hit the road jack chords. And they make it major at the beginning, but it starts with this chord loop in A. So... And the lineup of the Ventures was 2 guitars, bass, and drums. And the lead guitar player there was a guy called Bob Bogle, fantastic name for a band member. And he took the melody there and sort of ironed it out for the twang sound. So let me do a bit of it, just get my twang sound on, a bit of reverb. So it's something like this. But because the whammy bar, as we now call it, or the tremolo arm as it was called at the time, on a lot of guitars was the new thing. Think all of those Shadows hits, notably Apache, same year, I believe. You can hear him actually using that then new technology. Let's see if I can do it here. Yeah. So that whole thing of like you can effectively wobble the whole guitar, all 6 strings, and he does a little bit of that in the middle 8. So you get so it's got that is very much the sound of surf twang of the early 60s. You've got this very percussive, clean sound. In his case, a little bit of echo on it, and the whammy bar. And that became, even after the surf craze was over, the sound of the Shadows. You know, Hank Marvin made his whole career really with that sound.
Yes. I'm always impressed, Joe, when you played us that original version, the jazzy version, that they got that from that. I mean, I'm not a musician, but that I know you're saying essentially it's the same tune, but it's completely different record altogether, really, isn't it?
Isn't it really? Yeah. So, and I think that was very much what early rock and roll was about. You know, rock and roll partly came out of jazz, where the harmonies were more sophisticated in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And rock and roll simplified the harmony, but added particularly electric guitar and, you know, a whole lot more sort of 8 to the bar. I can't think of a better word than aggression, so it's kind of pumping away. But you're right, the original version that we heard there, the Johnny Smith from 54, was a whole lot more jazzy and had slightly different chords.
Kept off number 1 by Elvis Presley. It's Now or Never, so why not, I guess. Tell us the story about the drummer, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is
so I mentioned Bob Bogle, the guitarist there. The drummer at that time was a guy called Skip Moore, who wasn't in the band for very long, but he did play on that, and you heard him playing that classic 60s surf beat, dum-da-da-dum-da, with a ride cymbal going there. So the story goes that Skip Moore didn't want to tour with the band. He had personal and work commitments, didn't want to take it on. He didn't know it was going to blow up. So he was never a full-time member of the band. He just played on that session. So he was given the choice, get this, of get a fee of $25 or 25% of royalties from sales of the single. And he took the session fee.
took the $25. So, and he wouldn't have played on all the albums, but I read here that they sold 110 million albums worldwide, the Ventures. So it's pretty impressive stuff. So that's kicked us off, and you can see already. I can hear definitely to my tin ear the influence that the Ventures had on other bands. The next one up is Amen Brother by the Winstons. Joe, I mean, you know, I was going to say, before it got to that, amen, I was going to shout Blues Brothers. It just sounds like something that should belong in the Blues Brothers. And there we go. Amen Brother by the Winstons. Fantastic. What's the story here?
Yeah, so you could be thinking of quite a lot of tunes from that Blues Brothers soundtrack, because it is, you know, in the early 80s, they're echoing that production of those classic sort of electric blues records of the 60s. So that track came out in 1969, and the most significant bit of it is the little drum break that we heard there. And all the musicians listening to the show will know exactly what I'm talking about, because the amen break, some British people say it, the amen break, it is the most sampled drum break in music history.
Oh.
It has been on, we think, about 6,000 records. So just that brief moment where the band stopped and the drummer just went for it. So that was the mighty Gregory Coleman, who by extension is perhaps the drummer who is on the most records in the world, at least that specific performance. And it's a 4-bar drum break that lasted 7 seconds. We just heard it there. And because in the early days of sampling in the 80s and 90s, samplers didn't have much memory. So what you tended to do was look for a good sample and then keep re-triggering it. And early samplists didn't like to sort of pull the mix apart or anything. They just wanted something clean that they could use as a break beat. And Amen Brother fit the bill. It has not only some fantastic drumming on it, but you can slow it down, you can speed it up, you can re-pitch it, you can add echo to it. So let's just take a minute and listen to the drum break itself.
I'm glad you're doing this.
So this is, and again, I want to keep giving him credit, because there's a bit of he wasn't fully credited for many years. This is Gregory Coleman playing the drums. This is that 7-second drum break. So I love the way he just throws that extra snare in and you can't quite tell where the downbeat is. So I've queued up a few examples of people in all kinds of music that chose to sample it. So this is Straight Outta Compton by NWA from late 80s, I want to say 88, I think. And listen out for the drum backing. So all they do there is they take 1 bar of the Gregory Coleman break and they slow it down with the sampling technology of the time. Here's one that people might recognize from TV. This is the theme from Futurama. And And to anyone who was clubbing in the 90s, readers of a certain age, this sample became the backbone of jungle, which eventually became drum and bass, etc. This is DJ Zinc and Super Sharp Shooter. So in that case, it's been pitched up so it goes up in speed with the sampling technology of the time. And finally, this is one of those tracks that people will know but maybe not know the title of. This is Pigs by Tyler, the Creator from 2013.
Hated by everyone, that's the way it seems. I don't know what's shorter, his damn temper or my self-esteem. I sit in my room and I listen to tunes. I'm amused alone, cause none of the cool kids will let me join the team.
So in that case, the sample is slowed right down and it has that very deep sound. So all of that comes from one instrumental from 1969.
Why and how? I don't get. I get it why they've sampled it, but what made that stand out from any other track with a bit of drumming?
Well, I think it's because it was isolated and it was interesting. It's not just straight 4/4 timekeeping. There's some very cool fills in there, and it could be recontextualized. So you didn't have to sample the whole 7 seconds. You could come in halfway through the bar or a couple of beats in. The technology of the time, you could reverse it, and then once it became a thing, it self-perpetuated as cultural objects tend to do. It was a thing because it was a thing, and then everyone on the scene knew that the amen break was something you should have in your tracks.
Stuart in Edinburgh, while suggesting an instrumental for you, Orion by Metallica, goes, yes, the amen break, legendary. What? So did the drummer earned a fortune, did he? What's the story there, Joe?
Would that were true, Tony? It's kind of a sad story. So the owner of the track was a guy called Richard Lewis Spencer, and he wasn't actually aware of all these people sampling it until somebody contacted him asking him for the master tape in the 90s. And he was unable to take legal action because of the statute of limitation in the US courts for copyright infringement at the time. That was 3 years. And sadly, the drummer, Gregory Coleman, he died homeless and destitute in 2006. So he never got, that fantastic drumming from 69. He never got his just rewards. It's sadly one of the great injustices of the music industry that Gregory Coleman never got his dues for that amazing break.
And that copyright limitation, I think it's changed now, hasn't it? But 3 years. I mean, you could sample something, and if what are the odds on them hearing it? Unless it went to number one, they may never know you've done it.
Well, and also because, it's sort of compounded by the fact that a lot of the time the people who make old records are themselves now kind of old. So they're not necessarily listening to contemporary pop. And I've worked on a few cases where the plaintiff has said, yeah, I know they sampled it 20 years ago, but I didn't hear it till this week.
Yeah.
Because older people don't listen to contemporary pop as much.
Hello. I can agree with that. Now, so this is why this is fascinating. So it's great. I love these stories behind this. Right, next tune up then. It's a song by Stevie Ray Vaughan called Lenny. So that is Lenny by Stevie Ray Vaughan. What's the story here then, Joe?
Well, first of all, can I just say what a great track for late night radio?
Yeah,
it's,
isn't it?
It's such
contemplative,
a great vibe,
I would say.
Yeah, contemplative. That's a great adjective. So this is the mighty Stevie Ray Vaughan, who's sadly no longer with us, taken far too soon. And that was Lenny from 1983. Stevie Ray Vaughan, obviously blues guitar virtuoso, much loved by the guitar community, and those records, I think, they're so organic and so beautifully, sensitively played that they still absolutely hold up today. People can probably realize that he was fairly influenced by Jimi Hendrix. You know, that track is particularly evocative for me of The Wind Cries Mary, and it's got some similar guitar techniques. I've actually got my electric guitar here, and I'm not going to play licks from Lenny, even though I love the track, other than to just give you the opening E flat 6 chord, which is, and because I wanted to do the whammy bar thing, because he's also using the vibrato on there. But he's such a sensitive player, I feel it would be sacrilegious to attempt his licks on air. But Lenny is also the name of his guitar. His guitar is called Lenny, so it's like an ode to the guitar. And he was only around for 7 years, but incredibly influential. That particular track is using a technique called hybrid picking, where the player holds the plectrum, the guitar pick, between thumb and forefinger, and also pulls extra notes in with the fingers. So yeah, it's just a great track, and it's all just that strat and some reverb and some absolutely world-class guitar playing.
When you talk about its influence, then what is that stylistically, or because it almost feels to me as a listener that it's a jam session, as though he's doing it as we're listening. You know,
I think that's one of the great things, about that record. And it absolutely is almost certainly improvised, or at least part improvised. He's got that main theme, that sort of E flat to A flat vamp, and the B section does have a chord sequence in it. But all of those licks, they are absolutely improvised, and many of them, I won't say straight out the Hendrix playbook, because he definitely adds his own character to them, but certainly there's a sort of a Strat hammer-on influence in there.
Right. Well, we are at our penultimate track in this influential instrumental section. So this is Amen Brother. Oh no, we had that one, haven't we? Oh, sorry, my computer's gone nuts. This is Avril the 14th by an artist known as Aphex Twin. That's Avril 14th by Aphex Twin. Tell us about Aphex Twin then, Joe.
Okay, well, real name Richard David James, known as Aphex Twin, or the Aphex Twin, a pioneer in what he refers to as IDM, not EDM, but IDM, intelligent dance music. And lovers of electronic music, to people in that world, he's always been a kind of a god as an artist. He's so experimental and so out there, and yet also incredibly popular. So he's really pushed the genre along. That track was from 2001, and I don't want to prank you, Tony, by saying, you know, this is an Aphex Twin track, and then you go home in the car and put on a bunch of Aphex Twin, because most of it does not sound like that.
Right.
It's very much extreme electronic music, very in your face. It's not a late night relaxing drive home necessarily, but it is very, very pioneering. And so this Avril the 14th, or I suppose, because Avril is French for April, it would be Avril 14, I guess, 14. And it was recorded using technically a piano, but actually it's called a disclavier with a K,
Right.
which was a piano with a mechanism that could read data. And you can actually hear on the recording that clicking you were listening to in the background. That wasn't actually in the studio moving our chairs around. That's a mechanical noise from the disclavier with the keys being triggered. Now, lovers of classical music will hear an obvious influence from the French composer Eric Satie, the famous Gymnopédies are his best known works. And because Avril the 14th is such a lovely, evocative, emotional, and rather delicate piano composition, it's ripe for usage in movies, and it has appeared in several. It's in Marie Antoinette, 2006, Four Lions in 2010, and it was in the trailer for Her, if you remember that movie, the talking AI in his head. So it was used for that. It was also sampled. It appeared in Kanye West's Blame Game that came out in 2010, and they tried to do a deal together, contacted Aphex Twin. They couldn't reach agreement on how it was going to be used, so they actually re-recorded it in the end. But if you listen to Blame Game from Kanye West, it appears about 2/3 of the way through. And so, yeah, absolutely lovely piano recording. But as I say, treat Aphex Twin with care, Tony. You don't necessarily want the whole thing turned up loud late at night.
I use my drive home as my wind down, Joe. I have half a melon, and try and get ready for bed. I don't want any Aphex Twin. What that business of reading data? What was that? What was the old-fashioned way of creating music when you had a disc with prongs on that rotated? And
right, yes, you're talking about the player pianos,
yeah,
the pianolas of the 1910s.
So that's the modern day equivalent. That's the electric equivalent, then, is it? Triggering
It's the 80s, 90s equivalent. So yes, I think everyone can picture them. You had those piano rolls, which were big rolls of paper that had holes punched in them, and you could wind them up and turn the handle, or there's a mechanism, and the piano would play itself and the keys would move down. It was actually one of the earliest copyright cases of the 20th century, because the Musicians Union tried to sue the guys that made the pianola rolls for copyright infringement. That is one of the earlier sounds.
That was some of your ancestors that have been in Yoldi Courty trying to sort that one out.
Yoldi forensic musicology, absolutely. But so that was MIDI data, musical instrument digital interface, which was invented in 1983, and it's a way that a computer can trigger notes. And in that case, the disclavier, it's triggering a real piano to play the notes back.
Well, look, that takes us nicely to our last instrumental then tonight. It's called My Queen is Albertina Sisulu by Sons of Kemet. So there we are. My Queen is Albertina Sisulu, Sons of Kemet. I've heard that before. It won't surprise anyone to hear that. But I like the vibe. Ryan was getting down with that.
Yeah.
What's the significance there, Joe?
Well, we don't play a lot of jazz on the show, and I thought, rather than go back to a jazz standard or a jazz classic, well, let's look at some modern jazz. Jazz, perhaps the original instrumental pop music. So that was My Queen is Albertina Sisulu by Sons of Kemet. That track came out in 2018. They are a sort of London-based, sort of British modern jazz band, and have had various members over the years. At that time, that was Shabaka Hutchins, who's the sort of band leader, and he wrote and plays saxophone on all the tracks. And I pretty much guarantee that is the best saxophone, tuba, drums trio track you're going to hear all day. So they have this very unusual lineup. You've got Theon Cross there on tuba. So it's essentially three instruments that you're hearing, and it's sort of theme and variations. It's quite accessible for modern jazz. It's not too out there in terms of the harmony. So you've got that. So that theme keeps recurring, and the section we were hearing about halfway through there, the tuba picks up the theme introduced by the saxophone, and the saxophone then improvises over the top. What I found interesting about this track as well is that it's political instrumental music. So that album itself, it comes off an album called Your Queen is a Reptile, and the title refers to the British monarchy meets the reptilian conspiracy theory. And nearly every track on the album is called My Queen Is. So that particular one, My Queen is Albertina Sisulu, who is a prominent South African anti-apartheid activist, nurse, and a member of the ANC, the African National Congress. So essentially, it's about themes related to the African struggle towards racial oppression, and the whole album celebrates influential black women and the stories, even though they are entirely instrumental, they are name-checking these influential black women. So there's a track called My Queen is Harriet Tubman, My Queen is Angela Davis, and there's a lovely one called My Theme is Ada Eastman, which is Shabaka's grandmother. So he name checks his own family in there.
All of this, Joe, often people can see instrumentals. If you're listening to an album and there's an instrumental, you might think filler, just an easy, they've knocked it out. But actually, the instrumental, as you've proved there, can be highly significant, influential, and thought-provoking.
Well, absolutely, and I love that this is a highly politicized album with where every track is an instrumental. So it's the titles that are doing the heavy political lifting there. But seeing them live, they're terrific players, and it's a very engaging thing. As I was saying at the start of the show, Tony, instrumentals don't break through into the charts, or still less to number ones very often. And when those kind of tracks do it, it tends to be because they've got a really strong poppy melodic theme about them, or some other media tie-in like a movie theme. But in that case, just a great bit of contemporary modern jazz, and I thought it'd be nice to have that on the show. Yeah,
lovely, great, real interesting journey there. Loads of people have been sending in their favourite instrumentals. I'll mention this one from Stu in Derby, just because I play it every night at 11 o'clock. Ghost by The Jam, Tony, 3 exclamation marks, says Stu in Derby. Yeah, so we'll be playing that tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Right, Joe, we need to recap the quiz, I think. We've had loads of entries, actually, but we just need to get, and there's just one dropped in there from Catherine in Cornwall as well. We need to give people another go at the quiz. So remind us what we're doing. And everyone just needs to get a pen and a paper or a device or whatever just to write your answers down. What's happening? What are we about?
Okay, so there are 5 instrumentals from 1959 to 2013. They were all really big hits of their time. I'm going to give you the year it came out and a little bit of info, maybe the location of the artist. And I'm going to play a short backward excerpt, about 5 seconds of each, and 1 point for the artist, 1 point for the track. So, number 1. This track came out in 1959, and it was a 4-piece band from California. Number 2, this track came out in 1962, and it was a band from Memphis, Tennessee. Number 3 is also a political instrumental, that's a clue, and specifically this was recorded on August 18th, 1969. Number 4, this instrumental actually has the title mentioned in it, so you're going to hear it backwards here. It came out in 2010. Canadian-American duo.
That's your cereal.
That's your cereal. And finally...
Sounds like Yorkshire something there. Anyway, it's backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, number 5, this is a producer from Philadelphia, USA. This was huge on the internet in 2013. There it is. 5 questions.
I think between us, we've got all 5.
Yes.
Well, I know I'm right on 3 of them.
I've got the last 2. I think Brian Tully in Coventry as well might have a few right ones there as well.
Well, there's Well, we'll run through the answers shortly. But if you want to have a go, 85058 or WhatsApp is 0885 909693. Beth in Wigan mentioned Madness, and also who else mentioned something? Hello to Hugh Pugh. What a great... That can't be his name. Hugh Pugh in Fishguard, who says bad manners. It's either one word or 8. If we get time, I'll play them before the end of the show. But thank you for that. Right, it's time for Soundslike now. So this is where we showcase Dr. Beat's day job outside of Berklee College of Music, providing expert testimony in court cases involving often claims of plagiarism. He's the master of hearing similarities in songs. So if you think you've heard a song that sounds similar to another song, you can send it in 85058 and we'll forward it to Joe for analysis.
Brilliant.
So we're not saying these are cases of plagiarism. Sometimes it's just a bit of overlap or a bit of familiarity. We don't want anyone to sue us. We want to be clear about that. Joe, what have we got tonight?
So, yes, you're absolutely right, Tony. These things are nearly always a coincidence, and 5 Live listeners are great at spotting these little fragments of melody. So I love this one. This is probably an influence, but it's certainly not a lawsuit, and we'll talk about why. So this is from Ian in the West Midlands, and he texted in a couple of weeks ago, quote, "Can you ask Dr. Beat about the massive similarities in the vocal melody of Cool About It by boygenius and Simon & Garfunkel's The Boxer? We were playing it on holiday in Gran Canaria, and even my 14-year-old daughter, who's a Phoebe Bridgers super fan, said she could never unhear it now." So let's take a listen. I'm going to people of a certain age. The first track's going to be really well known. This is The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel, 1970, and you're listening for the opening melody. I am just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told.
I am just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. I squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises.
And the second track is by the, I can't think of a better word than supergroup, boygenius, which is a trio, Julian Baker, Phoebe Bridgers and Lucy Dacus. And they came out with an album called The Record in 2023, which contained this song, which is called Cool About It.
Met you at the dive bar to go shoot some pool.
Wow. Ooh.
Make fun of the cowboys with the neck tattoos.
So I wanted to play the second phrase there so you can hear how the melody diverges. And most similarities that people notice tend to be very short. That's really 2 bars. Da 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 da. So it's, between 2 and 4 bars is generally the cusp of where coincidences often lie. So let's just do the technical stuff on it for now. So we can put them in the same key and slow them down. So the box is in a sort of slightly flat C, and Phoebe Bridgers and, boygenius, the three of them, are in the key of D. So that's 2 semitones, so we need to compensate and retune them a bit. Let's put Simon and Garfunkel up 2 semitones and a bit into D, so they're going to sound slightly higher.
I'm just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told.
Now, in forensic musicology, listening to melodies in this much detail really matters. So it's every note. I am just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. So listen really carefully for the note shape.
I'm just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told.
And here's Cool About It in the same key.
Met you at the dive bar to go shoot some pool.
So met you at the dive bar to go shoot some pool. Met you at the dive bar to... So that note bar, if we're in D, that would be a note of G, is actually different and does not appear in the boxer. So if you actually line them up note for note, they are not exactly the same, but because they're both sort of mid-tempo, folky, fingerstyle guitar, and they're both over the major chord and they both start on the downbeat, our brains sort of do the rest of the work and say that they sound similar. Now, that said, this is deliberate, because the band have acknowledged it. So on the liner notes, quote, it says, "Thanks to Paul Simon for inspiration on Cool About It." I looked it up on copyright databases. They don't give him a songwriting credit. It's more an homage. And musicians often like to do this, and some musicians are very flattered to have it done for them. And so the story goes, Paul Simon decided that was absolutely fine. Just let it go. Let them have a little bit of melody, change it a little bit, and make the quote. But certainly there's no lawsuit, no drama here.
Could he have done if he felt so inclined, or would he not have had a case?
Well, there are cases where people sue over between 2 and 4 bars of just top-line melody. I kind of wish they didn't, really, because, it's not like you're going to hear a boygenius record and then throw all your Simon and Garfunkel records away. It's not exactly harming the sales. So I think everyone should just let that kind of thing go. But it's not exactly the same, and no one made a fuss about it, so let's just enjoy both songs.
I love that moment when you match it, when you slow or speed up. Oh, it's fantastic. Loving Joe's work says that there's no name on this text, but I'm listing in a coracle in Colwyn Bay, so you never know who's listening to this show, Joe, but someone's fishing while in a coracle in Colwyn Bay.
I think
tonight.
that's Fred.
Oh, is it Fred?
I've got it on previous text.
Oh, right. Hello, Fred. Well done for that. Right. We got 5 minutes, Joe. So how are we going to handle this quiz then? Have we time to play them backwards again, or are we just going to do the answers forwards? What do you think?
I think a lot of people will have got it, so I want to leave time to hear who's got it from Ryan. So let's just do the answers. So the first one was from 1959. The 4-piece band, that was a clue. It was the Dave Brubeck Quartet from California, and the song, of course, I think a lot of people would have got this one. The song was Take 5.
Yes.
And for number 2, the session band I mentioned was Booker T and the MGs in 1962, their very famous track, Green Onions. The August 18th, 1969 was the date of Jimi Hendrix's 2-hour set at Woodstock, and this was his famous political version of the Star-Spangled Banner. Number 4, this track came out in 2010, Canadian-American duo. For those who heard the backwards bit of vocal, the words they were saying were Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand.
And for number 5, the song that was huge on the internet in 2013 was a very particular dance, freeze frame, then move, 30-second dance, one of the earlier memes. And the artist was a producer called Bauer, the track famously, the Harlem Shake.
Do the Harlem Shake.
Yeah, that's another song I won't be listening to on the way home.
Yeah.
But I got the first 3. Do you get the second 2?
I got the second 2, yeah.
Anyone get them all right?
Teamwork,
Ooh,
I love it.
I believe... Oh, we've got Neil McFarlane in Chester. He got 5 out of 5 there.
Neil, well done.
Catherine in Cornwall did quite well. Hang on, she got, I think she got 3 out of 5. Well done to you, Catherine.
Wow.
And as we're coming down there, we've just got a load of people just going, number 5 is Harlem Shake. I think that was it.
Yeah, people have got 1 and 2 and 3. Anyway, well done to Neil. You're this week's winner. Joe, pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
Really enjoyed that, Joe.
Thank you, Tony and Ryan. Great speaking to you.
Speak to you next time out. Right, all very good. By the way, it's Geraint in his coracle. It's not Fred, I don't know. But anyway, hello, Geraint.
Hello.
Out there on the mighty Colwyn Bay. Right. Joe piqued my interest earlier on when he talked about instrumentals with one wording. So we'll go out tonight with this. We've just time to hear the one word, I think. It's Madness, Return of the Lost Palmer 7. And somewhere along here is Waiter.
Hi there, folks out there. I'd like you to meet Tommy McGuire and his combo.
Oh, no, there's loads of words in it.
Oh, there is.
No, hang on. Yeah. Okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. By the way, I'll see everyone later. Thank you, Ryan, for your company
no problem.
tonight.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed that.
Back tomorrow. I don't know what... the word waiter will pop up very shortly. In the meantime, while we wait for waiter, we can wait for Dotton. He's here at 1 o'clock. More from Joe next Tuesday. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Can't go to bed without this. Here it comes. There we are. It was worth it, wasn't it? Lots of love. See you later.